In this video, we are going to learn about carbon credit. What is carbon credit? What is the advantages of carbon credit? And what are the disadvantages? So first, let's learn what is a carbon credit. A carbon credit, also called carbon offset, is a generic term for any tradable certificate or permit representing the right to emit 1 ton of carbon dioxide or the equivalent amount of a different greenhouse gas. Carbon credits and carbon markets are a component of national and international attempts to mitigate the growth in concentrations of greenhouse gases. One carbon credit is equal to 1 ton of carbon dioxide, or in some markets, carbon dioxide equivalent gases. Carbon trading is an application of an emission trading approach. Greenhouse gas emissions are capped, and then markets are used to allocate the emissions among the group of regulated sources. The goal is to allow market mechanisms to drive industrial and commercial processes in the direction of low emissions or less carbon incentive approaches than those used when there is no cost to emitting carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Since greenhouse gases mitigation projects generate credits, this approach can be used to finance carbon reduction schemes between trading partners and around the world. There is also many companies that sell carbon credits to commercial and individual customers who are interested in lowering their carbon footprint on a voluntary basis. These carbon offsetters purchase the credits from an investment fund or a carbon development company that has aggregated the credits from individual projects. Buyers and sellers can also use an exchange platform to trade, which is like a stock exchange for carbon credits. The quality of the credits is based in part, on the validation processes and sophistication of the fund or development company that acts as a sponsor to the carbon project. The Collins English Dictionary defines a carbon credit as a certificate showing that a government or company has paid to have a certain amount of carbon dioxide removed from the environment. The Environment Protection Authority of Victoria defines a carbon credit as a generic term to assign a value to a reduction of offset of greenhouse gas emission, usually equivalent to 1 ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. The Investopedia INC Investment Dictionary defines a carbon credit as a permit that allows the holder to emit 1 ton of carbon dioxide, which can be traded in the international market at any current market price. There are different types of carbon credits. There are two types of credits: voluntary emission reduction. A carbon offset that is exchanged in the over the counter or voluntary market for credits. Then the certified emission units or credits credited to a regulatory framework with the purpose of offsetting a project's emissions. The burning of fossil fuels is a major source of greenhouse gas emission, especially for power, cement, steel, textile, fertilizer, and many other industries which rely on fossil fuels such as coal, electricity derived from coal, natural gas, and oil. The major greenhouse gases emitted by these industries are carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, hydrofluorocarbons, etc., all of which increase the atmosphere's ability to trap infrared energy and thus affect the climate. The concept of carbon credits came into existence as a result of increasing awareness of the need for controlling emissions. The IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, has observed that policies that provide a real or implicit price of carbon could create incentives for producers and consumers to significantly invest in low GHG, that is greenhouse gas products, technologies, and processes. Such policies could include economic instruments, government funding, and regulation, while noticing that a tradable permit system is one of the policy instruments that has been shown to be environmentally effective in the industrial sector as long as there are reasonable levels of predictability over the initial allocation mechanism and long term price. The mechanism was formulated and formalized in the Kyoto Protocol, an international agreement between more than 170 countries, and the market mechanisms were agreed through the subsequent Marrakesh Accords. Now let's learn what is emission allowances. Under the Kyoto Protocol, the caps or quotas for greenhouse gases for the developed Annex 1 countries are known as assigned amounts and are listed on Annex B. The quantity of the initial assignment amount is denominated in individual units called assigned amount units or AAUs, each of which represents an allowance to emit 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide equivalent, and these are entered into a country's national registry. In turn, these countries set quotas on the emissions of installations run by local business and other organizations, generally termed operators. Countries manage this through their national registries, which are required to be validated and monitored for companies by UNFCCC. Each operator has an allowance of credits where each unit gives the owner the right to emit 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide or other equivalent greenhouse gas. Operators that have not used up their quotas can sell their unused allowances as carbon credits, while businesses that are about to exceed their quotas can buy the extra allowances as credits privately or on the Open market. As demand for energy grows over time, the total emissions must still stay within the cap, but it allows industry some flexibility and predictability in the implanting of plants to accommodate this. By permitting allowances to be bought and sold, an operator can seek out the most cost effective way of reducing its emissions, either by investing in cleaner machinery and practices or by purchasing emissions from other operator who already has excess capacity. Since 2005, the Kyoto mechanism has been adopted for CO2 trading by all the countries within the European Union under its European trading system, with the European Commission as its validating authority. From 2008, EU, that is the European Trading Scheme, participants must link with other commissions as its validating authority. They should link with other developed countries who ratified Annex 1 of the protocol and trade the six most significant anthropogenic greenhouse gases. In the United States, which has not ratified Kyoto, and Australia, whose ratification came into force in March 2008, similar schemes are being considered. Kyoto's flexible mechanism. A tradable credit can be an emission allowance. A tradable credit can be an emission allowance or an assigned amount unit which was originally allocated or auctioned by the national administrators of a Kyoto compliant cap and trade scheme, or it can be an offset of emissions. Such offsetting and mitigating activities can occur in any developing country which has ratified the Kyoto Protocol and has a national agreement in place to validate its carbon project through one of the UNFCCC's approved mechanisms. Once approved, these units are termed Certified Emission Reductions or CERs. Certified Emission Reductions. The protocol allows these projects to be constructed and credited in advance of the Kyoto trading period. Before moving on to that, which are the two types of credits? Voluntary emission credits along with certified emission credits. Voluntary emission credits and certified emission credits. Don't forget that. So, the Kyoto Protocol provides the three mechanisms that enable countries or operators in developed countries to acquire greenhouse gas reduction credits. Under joint implementation, a developed country with relatively high costs of domestic greenhouse reduction would set up a project in another developed country. Under the Clean Development Mechanism, a developed country can sponsor a greenhouse gas reduction project in a developing country where the cost of greenhouse gas reduction project activities is usually much lower, but the atmospheric effect is globally equivalent. The developed country would be given credits for meeting its emissions reduction targets, while the developing country would receive the capital investment and clean technology or defined change in land use.